Congratulations, Dean Nancy Cox. Please come forward.
Thank you all so much. I cannot think of a higher honor. When they called me to talk about this award, I said, I'm not from Kentucky, but I am rural. I do value a lot about the rural lifestyle. So it is such an honor to be recognized by Kentuckians in the state that I moved to and began to love. I've always said that if you're anybody who works at a land-grant university, you should love the state you're working in, or you shouldn't be working there. And I think that goes. I know President Capilouto, who was just speaking, loves the state, and it is best when the university guys do that. So thank you so much. I wanted to say how lucky I was to have a rural upbringing in South Carolina, and to thank my parents who adopted me and indulged my love of the outdoors and animals as well. And Joe encapsulated some of that work in saying that my mother took me to the library and let me carry all the books home. That's a great mom right there. So appreciate my parents so much. But I wanted to thank a few people who I invited to sit at my table tonight who helped me become a Kentuckian. Dean Laura Stevenson, who we recruited from Tennessee to come back and lead Extension, and now she's the Dean of the college and Vice President for Land Grant Engagement. We'll applaud everybody when I get to the end, if that's okay. Eddie Melton and Kyle Kelly from Farm Bureau have also been a most important partner of our college in rural communities. Ag Extension and Farm Bureau are literally joined at the hip and have such a great relationship with each other. And I think Eddie should also be commended for his leadership of the Farmland Transition Program, which is going to have an impact on farmland and farm preservation in Kentucky for a long time to come. Warren Beeler, Mr. Agriculture, who has meant a lot to me, being a fellow animal person, living here in Kentucky. And he's here with Dee Dee. Dee Dee, I'm not going to call you Mrs. Agriculture. I'm thinking maybe Empress or Queen would be better than that. Bill McCloskey, he told Joe Arnold he used to use the nickname Mama Dean for me when he was in more favor with me than he is now. But anyway, he's here with his wife Linda, and Linda, glad you're here. Will Snell, a faculty member, and his wife Amy. I learned a lot from Will. I think he didn't realize how much I learned from him when I first moved here in 2001 and the tobacco buyout was going on. And Will was a key figure in the federal aspects of negotiation of that buyout. And Will and Bill are kind of the Will and Bill show. So my sympathies to Will's wife, Amy, as well as Linda, for the Will and Bill show. Also, and not any order of special importance, Amanda and Brandon Sears are at the table, and I learned a lot about them. They're both extension agents of the highest order. Learned a lot about their commitment and positive attitude and what a difference extension can make. And last but far from least at my table is Nick Carter. Was an ag agent in Fayette County. He's had a couple of other jobs, but now I think he's right hand of extension for Dean Stevenson. And Nick has taught me a lot, maybe more than anybody else. The only thing about Nick is he doesn't always hear his alarm in the morning if he's supposed to pick you up. After being here for a while this evening, there's some other people also in no particular order that also helped me become a Kentuckian. We have here Senator Amanda Bledsoe, Representative Jim Tipton, Representative Suzanne Miles, Brandon Reed from the Kentucky Office of Ag Policy, Ryan Quarles, my very good friend who was commissioner and remains a big touchstone for me in a lot of ways, Al Cross, a good friend and a distinguished Kentuckian as well, David and Nancy Beck, who have meant so much to me in my career, Randy Mann, who taught me about soybean production when I first came here in 2001, and Paul Tucker. I had even more to learn about tobacco production, and Paul Tucker helped me there. So thanks to all of y'all. Can we give them all some applause? I will say I'm glad I'm retired because I don't have to take ribbing from some of my colleagues at UK about some of those pictures y'all saw of me as a child. But I did want to make a couple of comments on the electric cooperatives and some things we have in common between your organization and the Land Grant University. Obviously, we both serve rural communities. We've been around about the same amount of time in some ways. Extension was chartered in 1914, and the electric co-ops in the early 30s. We're both committed to fact-based information in a world where it's hard for fact-based information to compete with all the forms of communication that we have. And that can be a challenge. We share the concept of cooperative with Kentucky Cooperative Extension and your organization, certainly denoting a commitment to partnering with our clientele. And also, we do not have a for-profit business model. We have a different business model that is emphasized on serving our clients. And another thing that I used to spend a lot of time at UK telling my colleagues that worked there, we are so rural as a state. Only 8 counties have 100,000 or more population, 60 counties less than 20,000. We often say that in many counties, the extension offices can be the best place to have a meeting, other than a church perhaps. But we have 120 counties with extension offices, and extension is the rural part of UK. It's the rural part of our land grant mission. We do have 3 missions that we talk about as the 3-legged stool. Teaching, obviously. How many people here went to UK, please? Thank you very much indeed. Research. The experiment stations were formed in late 1880s, and they were designed to do testing for farmers. So what if the farmers had to figure out what variety was best to plant, what fertilizer rate was the best to have? We do the experiment so we can take the risk for the farmers and make a recommendation. We're also a bunch of us back in the laboratories too, at the experiment stations. You know, you don't see those guys very much because they're in the lab and they're looking at the genome of the oak tree or the next generation of friendly pesticides or how diet and health work together. We like to joke that the guys in the research labs, they're so introverted that if you find an extroverted researcher, he's looking at your shoes when he's talking to you instead of his own shoes. So, but it's a powerhouse. You don't think about that. But then Extension, our shining service-oriented program of commitment, and we have agents in all 120 counties, and that is where we really make a difference. Extension offices are the home of 4-H, agricultural agents, family and consumer sciences, and within the family and consumer sciences, we are trying to do better for health care in communities. And Dean Stevenson started when she was in Extension and now is continuing with an initiative to help people be healthier. And all the things that are done in Extension offices are a result of a needs assessment. What does your county really need? What's the most important? Where can we make the difference? So I think your organization and ours and Farm Bureau and Kentucky Department of Agriculture and others, we all must keep and extend and expand our commitment to rural Kentucky. The challenges are great. We need to communicate and serve better. And I'm confident that with the organizations and the strength that are brought to bear in Kentucky, we can get that done. So thank you for giving me the designation of Rural Kentuckian. It is such an incredible honor. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Nancy. Also want to thank, by the way, the narrator of our video is Sarah Fellows from Nolan, RECC, and the video editor and photojournalist is Wade Harris from our staff. So thank both of them for their contributions. And Nancy, Dean Mama, before I introduce our keynote speaker, I got a late email that I could not include. I was too late for this, but I heard from your former boss at Mississippi State, now 96-year-old Werner Hurt, who emailed me. We have it on here. I recognized Nancy's exceptional talent early in her career. She was incredibly bright, tremendous potential. I encouraged her to pursue a path in administration. It's been deeply rewarding to watch her grow into an outstanding leader. I'm humbled, he says, that she recognizes the role I played in her journey. Seeing her receive the well-deserved honor of being named a Distinguished Rural Kentuckian is especially gratifying. So Werner Hurt sends his warm regards.